I've gotten lots of comments and suggestions for builds, and it turns out you guys don't know what you're talking about. What am I supposed to do with this? Just build AP. I've gotten so many suggestions for mathematically correct Jhin, and I thought it was stupid, but you guys kept commenting it. So I give up. You win. This is your video. You'll get your highest AD Jhin build, but at a price. While looking into max AD Jhin, I stumbled across a build that was never meant to see the light of day. That's what the second half of this video is, my descent into madness, written out in nice little animated formulas. So, now you make a choice. Take the blue pill, and I show you a normal Jhin build precisely tuned for maximal AD. You can watch the first half of this video, then close it and pretend there's nothing else. Take the red pill, and I show you a build with the power to kill any champion instantly. A build so mismatched, you would never believe it's optimal. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe for more stupid builds, and maybe even join the channel. Also join the Discord, follow me on Twitter, and whatever. Okay, now back to the video. Jhin's passive is great. I love it. It's a real testament to the genius of the designers who made the character. There's a reason everyone's wanted a video about this. Jhin's passive gives some bonus AD based on your bonus attack speed and crit chance. You also have a fixed attack speed that only increases with levels. Every fourth shot is a guaranteed crit and deals missing health damage, but you have to reload afterwards. This makes Jhin feel not like a marksman, which is why I like playing him, because I can't kite for shit. The attack speed and crit multiply your AD, which is great because I love multiplicative scaling. Also your critical strikes do slightly less damage, but you get a burst of movement speed scaling with attack speed, so it's worth it. So, what items do we build to get the highest possible AD on Jhin? Obviously, we're going to need items with AD, attack speed, and crit, but it isn't that simple. Swift March just got changed recently to give adaptive force based on your movement speed, so I have to account for that now. I'm not going to explain how MS is calculated, I already did that, but just know it's awful and I hate it. Once we have the list of items, we feed that to a Python script that calculates the AD values. Making this script was harder than I thought it would be. I almost bricked my computer by making it calculate 8 billion item combinations. Luckily I fixed it, it only has to calculate 8 million combinations now. There's also this weird bit where I tried to add a check for boots to an if statement, and this caused the program to fall down a bottomless pit into bit space hell. Luckily I could just make a new if statement inside the first, and this somehow fixed the problem. I'm not touching it anymore, it works and that's what matters. After many trials and tribulations, I have found that the precisely tuned Jhin build is Essence Reaver, Infinity Edge, Immortal Shieldbow, Yuntal Wild Arrows, and Hubris. This looks kind of normal. Yuntal is weird because it's hard to stack it on Jhin, but suck it up. Yuntal has the best stat lineup of any crit item except for possibly Infinity Edge, so you have to take it. There aren't any attack speed items here except for Yuntal, since the AD and crit are more valuable. With this build we can get to around 833 AD, which can be increased further by taking Infernal Drakes and stacking Hubris. For boots you should take Gunmetal Greaves or Berserkers. The extra AD from Swift March isn't worth it, especially compared to the multiplier from Gunmetal's attack speed. We can also calculate optimal builds for basic attack damage. Obviously we want to build crit, but maybe some lethality and armor pen too. Luckily I've put assassin items into the spreadsheet so we can test them out in the build script. The average champion has about 110 armor at level 18, so we'll be calculating damage based on that. And if you're wondering why I didn't include the bonus damage from the fourth shot, it's because it scales with target missing health, so it's different every time. For strongest auto Jhin, our build is Hubris, Infinity Edge, LDR, Profane Hydra, and Opportunity. This gets us 1171 damage against our average target, which includes every ADC, so have fun with that. This doesn't even include any bonus AD from Hubris, Drakes, or runes. To all the ADC players out there, I'm very sorry about this. For our runes, we want Gathering Storm, Absolute Focus, and Coup de Grace. The sorcery runes give a lot of adaptive force, and Coup de Grace deals 8% more damage to targets below 40% of their max health. This synergizes with your fourth shot's missing health damage. If you just wanted the video on Jhin passive, you can go now. That part's done, you got your answer. Go try it out in a game. Put a clip of it in the Discord. Okay, I think they're gone now. The observant viewer may have noticed that in the last section there were a few AP items hidden in the build list. This was actually clever foreshadowing because we're talking about Jhin E next. Also, I already put the items in, I didn't want to remove them. It probably would have cut significantly down on my runtime, but that's all in the past now. Jhin's E is called Captive Audience. Jhin can store up to 2 Lotus Traps and activate the ability to place one. The traps go stealthed after 1 second. If an enemy walks over them, they slow in an area for 2 seconds, then explode, dealing magic damage. Subsequent traps against the same target deal 65% damage. If you have a look at the scaling here, you'll see that it's extremely high. almost as high as the riders were when they made this. If you stack a few of these traps on top of each other, they'll all explode and deal a lot of damage, even with the 65% reduction. And you may think you can just walk out of the trap, and yeah, you can, but it's not always that easy. Jhin's W will root champions who have been damaged or have touched a Lotus trap in the last 4 seconds. Touching a trap slows you, which allows Jhin to line up his W and root you. If you touch a big pile of traps and are caught by the root, you have about 2 seconds to write your last will and testament. For this kind of build, it's better to go for items with expensive stat lines over damaging spell effects. Luden's Companion is quite tempting, until you realize it doesn't do any damage once you have more than 4 or so traps. So, let's look at some actually useful items. My old enemy is back. Spear of Shojin, the item that gave me so much trouble about a year ago. Then again, it gave me my YouTube start, so I guess it's not all bad. Shojin is weird because of the way it stacks damage amp. Other items like Riftmaker and Liandry's stack over time while in combat. Shojin stacks with instances of non-innate ability damage. Non-innate just means it can't be ability damage from a passive. This means there is no time constraint on stacking Shojin. If we could hit 4 abilities at the same time, we could stack it instantly. And it just so happens that Jhin traps count as separate instances of ability damage, even if they explode at the same time. The first 4 traps in a pile will stack Shojin, and the rest benefit from the 12% increase. The more traps we have, the more effective the 12% is. We can use this to calculate a formula for damage. This will output the damage a given number of traps will deal, if you start with Shojin unstacked. On the screen right now is a bunch of complicated algebra, and you don't have to understand what's happening. Just trust that I know what I'm doing. Here, my trap deals 951 damage, which is the value of E0. If we apply this to the formula for 10 traps, it gives us 7071 damage, almost exactly what happens in game. This only works for 5 or more traps though. Just do the math by hand for less than that. There's a slightly different version for if you land your W first. Deadly Flourish will proc Shojin, granting 1 stack right away. This is the modified formula for that case. I hate saying Flicker Blade. In my heart, it will always be Quick Blades. It just rolls off the tongue so much better. Yeah, I'm dead naming a League of Legends item. Back to something that matters. Flicker Blade is a marksman item that gives attack speed, crit, and movement speed. That's not the interesting part though. Flicker Blade has a passive, Transcendence, which reduces your current basic ability cooldowns by 15% on attack. This, you may have noticed, is a form of cooldown reduction, which is great for, you know, using abilities a lot. I have been told that Flicker Blade is an awful item on Jhin, since its passive procs on attack, and its attack speed is fixed. And they're correct, this feels awful, but it does work as highly effective cooldown reduction, especially for longer cooldown abilities because of how percentages work. Even including reload time, Flicker Blades is much better than any other item. The attack speed and crit chance also convert to bonus AD through his passive, so the stats aren't completely wasted, even though it looks like a horrible idea. I don't have to sell you on this, you're watching a video about Hybrid Emax Jhin. I can tell you to build anything at this point. We can't make a damage formula for this one, because it involves ability cast times and attack speed windups and animation cancels. Too much real world noise. To test how effective Flicker Blade is, you have to do it empirically. Go into Practice Tool and try it out. Without items, you can place about 8 traps in 60 seconds, which we can use to find an equivalent cooldown, and then an equivalent value for ability haste. We effectively get 87 ability haste from Flicker Blade passive. That's pretty good. This only works if you're constantly attacking something though. If you want to do this in a real game, bring a friend near a jungle monster, start attacking it, and let them tank the damage. Remember to reset its aggro every now and then so you can keep attacking it. To calculate our build's damage, we have a few things to consider. How many traps do we have? How much damage do we do? How much magic resist does our target have? Let's talk about the first thing. How many traps do we have? We're going to be using a new metric nobody has thought of before. The trap setter equation gives you the number of traps a champion can realistically place before they start despawning. We take the duration a trap lasts for, divided by its cooldown in seconds, and round down. This part at the front is how ability haste affects the number of traps. If you have 100 haste, for example, you can place twice as many traps. The great thing about the trap setter equation is that any champion with traps can use it, not just Jhin. Not now, Maokai, this isn't about you. Yet. I'll get around to you. The final round down is to give us a whole number instead of a fraction, because you can't place 12.5 traps. This number plugs straight into the damage formula we used before, giving us this horrible equation. The Shojin variant looks like this, and the W hit variant looks like this. We're going to be using the W hit version, since, let's be real, you're not hitting them with the explosion without rooting them first. We're also going to be accounting for magic resistance. In my strongest ability video, I mentioned that 97% of the champions have less than 67 magic resist. So that's what we'll be using for our target. Unfortunately, if we want to include Flicker Blade, we have to ignore all of that math we just did. And by we, I mean me. I did all the work. If we feed all this information to my very distraught Python script and spend several hours debugging and fixing my horrible code, we get a final build for mathematically correct Jhin. Spear of Shojin, Shadowflame, Rabadons, Navori Flickerblade, and Void Staff. If you feel like selling your boots, you can add a Storm Surge to that. The downside is you can't run away if someone finds you before you set up the traps, but such is life. Shadowflame's bonus damage applies kind of weirdly. Even if every trap activates at the same time, the damage from each is applied sequentially. First trap first, second trap second, etc. And this includes any additional effects the traps apply. If, during this sequence, a trap detonates while the target is below Shadowflame's threshold, the 20% bonus damage applies to it. The same is true for Cut Down and Coup de Grace. This makes Shadowflame a pretty good item, but since we're able to one-shot without its effects, it's kind of overkill. This took my program actual real-life minutes to calculate, because I code like a chimp on Adderall. I'm pretty sure this code has a big O of n to the power of 6, which, for the non-CS mages out there, is very bad. Simple math should not take a computer this long to calculate. In-game, we can place 26 traps to deal 16,062 damage, if we're constantly attacking to proc Flickerblade. If you don't feel like using Flickerblade in this heretical way, you can take this build. Crypt Bloom, Horizon Focus, Rabadon's Deathcap, Seraph's Embrace, and Spear of Shojin, with an optional Shadowflame if you sell your boots. According to my damage formula, this will deal over 14,400 damage to someone with no MR items. This will pretty much one-shot any champion from full health, so have fun with that in some norms. You'll probably want to set up in a bush with a few friends, and take a blue buff to replenish all the mana you're spending. Our runes have a simple priority: deal damage, build AP. For our keystone, we either take Dark Harvest or First Strike. I prefer First Strike because it's a % damage increase, but Dark Harvest is always fun, and it got buffed recently, so go ham with it. For our secondaries, it's a toss-up between Cut Down and Gathering Storm. Cut Down gives 8% increased damage to targets over 60% of their max health, which we take over Coup de Grace because the first traps deal the most damage. Gathering Storm gives Adaptive Force, which scales into the late game very well. You can pick which one to take, but personally I prefer Gathering Storm. I may have gone a bit insane with these builds. Precisely tuned Jhin is pretty normal and the maths behind it is solid, and strongest order Jhin is actually usable in a real game. But mathematically correct Jhin? Never before have I seen something so vile, so blasphemous. I will never convince a single Jhin main to play this build. No one in their right mind would look at this and say, yeah, I'm willing to sit through 40 minutes of nothing for that. I would say my usual bit, don't play this in ranked, but I don't think people will play this at all. It's awful. If there's a hell, that's where I belong. My Python script broke many times during this project, so I had to revise some of the builds myself. There are probably easier ways to do what I do, but I'm in it for the love of the game. Thanks for making it to the end. This video is very long, one of the longest I've worked on. I'm looking at my script right now, and I've never had so much to say in a video before. Probably because this is the first time I've tried to put 3 builds into one video. I actually took a break from working on this because I had exams. Now that those are done, I'm hoping to get more content out, at least until the next semester. Anyway, if you liked the video, do all that YouTube stuff, like and subscribe and whatever. Also follow me on Twitter, and join the Discord. That's where the code for this video is going. Thanks again for watching.